Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Dark Souls 3 Ashes of Ariandel DLC walkthrough. I am playing on a dexterity build by the name of the Man with the 7 Scars, and I'm using a sharpened Dragon Slayer axe, which I've just recently got off of Crichton the Phantom, because I've beaten this game about 10 to 15 times, and every single time I have cocked up the side quest. So I am happy to report that I finally did it in the right order this time, so that I can use this weapon, because this weapon, if you don't know, is quite powerful. It is a weapon that is already infused with lightning, that can then, again, be buffed and infused with things, which gives you this lovely double sampling of damage. It's also very easy to use requirements-wise, so you can actually use this weapon on a soul level 1 run, and you can get about 400 attack just by making it raw, potentially, and it's one of the weapons that can outpower a lot of the standard other weapons in a soul level 1 run. And it's not good on all bosses, but it's good on a bunch of them, and it's good for getting through the areas, so if you're looking for a really good challenge weapon run, this is your weapon. I'm just using it because I've never used it before, and I kind of like the fact that it's a little bit slow, but it's not my favourite tool for the job. This is a generic katana build. I was using him to do low-level invasions in Lothric, the land of terrible frame rate, and he's just one of the builds that was close enough to do this. So what will I be featuring in this walkthrough? So this is standard new game, and it's going to be very minimalistic. It's a 26-minute long video. It's going to cover the bosses and how to get through the zones. I'm not going to be fighting everything. I'm going to be showing you no-nonsense patterns to get through most of it. For instance, the entire zone just then was full of wolves. And the wolves will howl, and they'll get a pack of wolves on you, and they attack very interestingly by waiting their turn, signposting their attacks, and then jumping you. And if you go to the wrong part of that snowfield, you can even get attacked by a huge wolf that you're going to meet later on. So there's all kinds of bad things in that zone, but we're going to mitigate them by immediately sprinting to the rope bridge over here and our first bonfire. So from this bonfire, we're able then to move down into the city, into the settlement that waits us in this valley, and it exposes us to the concept of the DLC, which is the idea of this idyllic dream, this paradise that has somehow gone on for too long and begun to be corrupted and begun to rot. And it's also going to lead you to your antagonist, who is the boss of this DLC, a fellow Ashborn like yourself who came into the dream. And apparently, I don't know too much about the lore, guys. I don't watch the lore videos and things, but I'm just going to give you the assessment that I took from it. I'm not bothered about being wrong. It's a story that I've built in my own head. But I kind of got the idea that it was such a great escape from just the miserable, dire situation of being a champion of Ash and going on, your pilgrimage to rekindle the fire and everything, which is so sorrowful, so abysmal, that anything is better than it. And then to come to such a place like this, you finally feel like there is some kind of out for you, that there may be some light at the end of your tunnel. And she chose to almost compromise this area and corrupt this area by deluding themselves. I think that's an interesting way of putting it. But this thing now, this Corvian Knight with the Freddy Krueger fingers, this guy is a beast! He does massive combos. He will bleed you in seconds. He will maul you faster. But he can be parried, and he signposts a lot of his attacks, so use the parry to your advantage. You can stunlock him a little bit, you can backstab him, and you can also do some kind of weird guard break on him if you hit him at the right moment. I don't know too much about the enemy, but what I do know is you're not going to fight many of them, and it's probably a good reason, because they are very tricky. So you can run past him if you don't have the build or the confidence to take him on and hit this bonfire and then go and practice him, or you can just take him on there and have a lovely duel to the death, because if he kills you, there is no shame, guys. He kills a lot of people. The only person worse than him is the rapier one coming up, because this dude can take off 99% of your life with just a friendly poke. He is a lunatic, and I love him, but he's really dangerous, so be very careful. But there was one aspect, be careful on this corner too. There's some dude's going to drop on you, and some people try and push you. And unlike in Bloodborne, where you can roll into them and interrupt them, in this game, rolling does not make them flinch. They're not like the people from the undead settlement, unfortunately. So we're just going to once again skip past the enemies, get to the next bonfire, open up the shortcuts, and make our way towards some areas. With the looks of this, I'm going to be picking up some new weapons too, because I'm going the right way to get the talons. So if you're interested in getting the weapon that enemy just used against us, they're up on this roof. And they're very, very good at doing crazy, you know, berserker barrages from Marvel vs. Capcom, and you get to pretend that you're Wolverine. But up on this rooftops, there is a couple of the Harry Potter wizards, as I like to call them, with the little effeminate wands, and they will cast rather quick spells at you, small soul masses, all kinds of tricky, fast, low damage spells that add up. So you want to be careful with getting hit by them, because one or two doesn't matter, but a few more matters more, and if a few of them hit you at the same time, before you know it, you can be stripped clean. This is only new game, so the damage is very manageable, but if you stack up the new game pluses, it can get real crazy real fast, so you want to, you know, always err on the side of caution, I would say. But one part of the DLC that I found really interesting was how it talked about the sisters, because apparently there's 3 sisters who paint and live this lifestyle of growing their hair and painting on canvases and what have you. And you come across the sisters in your run here, and there's actually a protector of them, a knight called Sir Vilhelm, or Wilhelm, I'm not too sure which way it is. And at the end, he says Elfriede, which I don't know if it's a title and her name, or if that's the name of the sibling, because the boss that you fight is called Friede, or Friede, however you want to say it. It's Friede. And I find it really interesting that she's not Elfriede, as I would say. So it's this idea that she, the Ashborn person, came into the dream, came into this painting, to this landscape. Be careful in this room, by the way. There are 2 of the Corvian Knights. That is a recipe for a massacre, if ever I saw it. Very dangerous room. But he mentioned Elfriede, whereas we see Friede, and it's this notion of, did she come into this dream as an Ashborn and take her identity? Because, I mean, you could go to all kinds of theories, couldn't you, with that Father Ariandel was in such grief over losing a daughter or whatever, that he was looking for some kind of surrogate, looking for some kind of replacement, and he was so blinded by grief that she was able to be that replacement for him, and it got to the point where he started believing it so much that he couldn't even see the rot as the dream in front of him began to fade and burn before his very eyes. All kinds of weird, you know, illusory tangents to put together, which I found really interesting in the DLC, even if it is just a few items. And I haven't read everything that probably tell you the full story and contradict everything I've said, but it's a fun little fantasy to have with Souls games. You know, that's the aspect of the lore I enjoy. I'm not a big fan of the totalitarian lorehounds who come in and be like, no, this is fucking wrong, I created this, I know this, Miyazaki told me this is the way. I like everybody having their own story. A little bit like what I think Miyazaki intended, because this is a dude who read books before he could read, so he just kind of made the story up. What a beast. But this is good old Wilhelm. This guy's really dangerous, but he's also predictable. He's got a heal spell that's pretty quick, so you want to take advantage of that. And there is the stability of my Cestus screwing me on a partial parry, because this game is fluently broken and it makes me miserable. But, you know, a lot of people think it's good balance because it balances off the quicker parry frames on the Cestus. I think it's fucking stupid. Like, I don't think you should be able to spam parry and get a parry. I think it should be a one and done kind of thing, and every parry after that you spam should just not connect. I don't think they should punish you with such massive stamina drops if you do that. I think it's too dirty for me personally. But you need to kill this guy to get access to the top layer. There was an interesting example of poise, wasn't it? My axe interrupted his one-handed greatsword, so the poise has changed. I have no idea how, but it's definitely something. And this guy heals really quickly, so stay on top of him. Throw a Lloyd's if you want to. Probably won't stop the spell. But it's always nice to have that feeling of empowerment, knowing that if he did have a flask, he couldn't use it. And never chase his rolls. He always swings after the rolls, every time. And he's really good at punishing you if you get aggressive. The computer is probably the best counter-poker you will ever face in PvP, because it's perfect. It has the perfect range in a lot of scenarios, and this guy will showcase those ranges because the computer's very good at it. But it's a little tedious, because he does have quite a high life. He uses his rolls very well. He's got a powerful weapon that kills you way faster than your weapon kills him. So it's a fight. You're going to know you've been in it, unless you get a couple of really good parries. if you've been playing this game quite a lot, so you know this moveset. And look at that! The buffing animation of the sword is also an attack. And he should have killed me then. I don't know how I survived. So this has got real close right now, but I don't think he's got any more heals. He might be out of his magic. Here he comes. There's the rolling attack. Oh, that was unfortunate. I did a pivot. This is close as shit. And then he goes weird AI and I just clobber him. I don't know what happened then. But if you watch Forgive Me My Lady and watch the name, I swore an oath, but I have failed you. See? Friede. Different name. And I don't know if it's just a different sister. Maybe it's one of the ones on the table or something. Or one of the ones doing the painting. Then it gets kind of weird. A little bit child pornographically. But I think it means the eldest sister. Oh, and another thing, guys. I've stood in front of those books as that comes down. You cannot die by it. So don't worry about being killed by that. So once you come up here, you can talk to the girl, or you can hit the bonfire. A lot of people ask me my feelings on the DLC, and I've tweeted and I mentioned in my playthrough that I really liked the exploration and I really liked the environments, but I felt like it was too short in almost every aspect of it. I didn't think that there was enough enemies. I didn't think that there was enough bosses. I just kind of feel like I expected more and we got less. And I know that that's my fault, not so much the game's fault for having those expectations, but I think Bloodborne did that to me. And it's disappointing that I went into it with this Bloodborne vision, because the Old Hunters to me was so good because it offered a ton of stuff. And this offers great stuff, as I completely skip this mountaintop area, because it's kind of miserable. There's a lot of the followers, and they're always in groups, and they can be very dangerous when they gang up on you. Same with the wolves. And then we're going to be briefly interacting with the Millwood Knights, who are essentially the Drake Keeper of this game, only nowhere near as bad as the Drake Keeper. But on my blind playthrough, I got almost one-shot by these enemies, so they can do some considerable damage if you let them. And they have a lot of armor, they have a lot of swings, they have a lot of deceptive timings. They're a pretty interesting enemy. I just think that they have a little bit too much recovery. And I don't think that's generally the DLC's problem. I think that's the game's problem. And I've discussed this a few times. You either agree with me or you don't. The Souls games in the beginning were always about understanding the moveset and then punishing the recovery. You would roll through an attack, get 1 or 2 hits, get out, wait for another attack, roll through it, punish the 2 hits. And you were always going in when you know you had a window of safety. Down here, by the way, is the shortcut to open the boss. This is a mandatory lever to open the area where you're going to fight the final person of the DLC, so you have to do this. And then you're going to get completely swarmed by the disgusting flies, so mash the rolling button and get the hell out of dodge, because it's going to get real crazy. If you get hit by the spray of the breath, it's going to put the blood-leeching maggots on you, so if you have any blood moss, hopefully mapped to your hot tab, you want to use it quickly, because the bleed is very powerful in this game, and it's kind of tough to dodge through it. I don't know why I'm not doing it. I've got it on my tab, I think. Oh no, I've got it on my tab on my other character. There we go. That's all it takes, guys. Go in that menu. My biggest advantage in this game is knowing how to do menu skills when you're in combat. I think it's a skill that not a lot of people learn, and you should. PvPers are probably better at it than people in PvE, because in PvP, humans get creative with status effects more so than the game does. And if you can confidently go into your map while still dodging bosses and things, you're going to be such a better player at recovering from bad situations. And it takes practice, it takes a while to do it, but you can do it. Get some distance, wait for the boss to do an attack, keep backing up while you're in the menu, and press start to get out of the menu quickly, and you should be okay. It's a great strategy for kind of getting the best out of every situation. Changing weapons, changing armor, all that kind of good stuff. It's a tool that you need, I think. You won't necessarily need it for every situation, but you will do so much better if you can learn to do that, I feel. And so now that we've hit that bonfire, I'm going to show you how to get to the optional area, and how to get to the undead matches if you're interested in doing the Colosseum. But I was talking about the recovery, wasn't I? And how the old school sentiments of Souls was to punish recovery. Well, when Bloodborne came out, they changed the rules, they changed the formula. Because you were so mobile, and because the regain system was such a pivotal part of that game, it was less about punishing recovery, because they'd almost removed it completely, and it was more about getting through the attack and punishing them while they were still in it. So they kind of streamlined the system so that aggressive play could lead to great damage. And this was something you could always do in Souls, but it wasn't the way that the formula of the enemies and the bosses were designed. So that when we got to Dark Souls 3, a lot of people compared it to Bloodborne because it was very similar in that regard. You would have a move that had a lot of startup, and it was a big hit, and it did incredible damage, but they would instantly recover. And there was often times where if you hit them, they would cancel out of recovery, and it was small amounts of recovery to begin with, into another attack. And it led to moments where you just you felt like the enemies could recover instantly regardless of how big the hit they did. And newer players probably didn't feel the bite of this too much, they didn't feel the sting. But if you came from Demon Souls and you came from Dark Souls, those games were considerably slower games, so it was all about committing to movement and understanding the enemies. And I think in this game, a lot of the enemies are like that. They have those big recovery windows, they have those slow moments. So when you come up against the Millwood Knights, you realise that those guys just kind of don't. Those guys can swing, and they've got a lot of swings. And I believe the bosses in Dark Souls 3 have always been kind of fast to recover and always had a handful of tricks to get you off them and to do these quick swings and to cancel into animations, but it was just a part of getting used to the game. And one of the things that they did to counter this is they made it so that a lot of the bosses have kind of low life. So they're very aggressive, they recover very quickly, and they do really sweeping attacks and combos, but if you hit them it matters. So I think it worked in the context of the game. And then we come to the DLC where it still works, it's just, if you play any of those other games and you come back, you can feel the difference in the design. You either prefer Dark Souls 3 or you prefer the oldest ones, because to me, I think it really suited Bloodborne, but I don't think it suited Dark Souls as much. But this is the champion's Gravetender. It is an NPC with the new Valor Heart weapon, and he's backed up by 3 wolves. When you get his HP to about 50%, he's going to call down the giant wolf, and it becomes a gank with a Sith-like enemy who is kinda bullshit, and the frame rate is horrendous in this fight. On Xbox One, PS4 does it better, PC does it best. Things to know about this guy: if you hurt him too much and you dominate him too much, he doesn't even call in the enemy, so you can't take advantage of that, the wolf just drops down. He is just like every other NPC. He can be super bullshit in knowing what you're going to do and dodging immaculately and punishing you, and other times he can be really stupid. The best strategy I have against this guy on my proper build is I parry him, I riposte, and then as he gets up I kick his shield, and it immediately guard breaks him, and I parry him, and I do that till he dies, and then I kill the wolf. But the wolf is interesting because it hits like a truck, and the hitbox is not honest. This is a boss where you will do a bad roll and you'll live and you'll be like, how did I do that? And then you'll do a good roll and you'll die. And you'll be like, that's not fair. But he's dead, so it's just me and the wolf. So the wolf has a handful of attacks. He has this, which is his bites. He does 2 sequences of bites. He has this, which is essentially just ripped off from Vought, but now it's really confusing because it's hard to see and the frame rate's in the toilet. And then he does the jump to reposition. And he also does a running, charging head sweep. There's the double bite, hit him in the face. There you go. Here comes the head swipe, dodge the swipe, hit him in the face. Here comes the double bite. Oh no, that was the get away from me attacks, that's just singular. And then when you get him to half life, he's going to go into crazy mode, where he starts doing the dash attack, and then he does the breath attack stolen from Vought again, only this breath attack is incredibly lethal and kills you at ridiculous distances. So here is the taunt, here's the second phase. If you can hit him in the head, you can stun him, and you can do a riposte. You're going to see that in this fight, actually. On the New Game Plus cycles, though, it's really difficult to stun him, so don't even try. But there's the stun, here comes the riposte, and there's a dead boss. I want to like this fight, guys, but I can't on 360. It performs like shit. And the only people who think it performs perfectly are people who need an optician, because I'm sorry, it doesn't. And it affects everything. And if you can't understand that, I can't convince you, and I don't want you on the channel, so please feel free to never come here ever again. If you're playing on PC and you have that at 60, you have a good chance of understanding everything about that fight. When you play it on this console, it becomes a completely different fight, because half the attacks have got different timings when the frame rate shits the bed, so it becomes very frustrating. And you'll notice, I haven't done any videos of that fight, no damage, you know, fancy no damage, New Game Plus 6 or anything, because I just don't like it. I really don't like any part of it, and I find it incredibly lazy. I didn't like it in the trailer, I didn't like it in the DLC, I still don't like it, and I hope you do, because I really don't. But now is the final boss of this DLC, guys. This is my first walkthrough. I'm going to do a walkthrough on New Game Plus 5 or 6, and it's going to be with my proper character, so I can talk a little different there. But here is Sister Friede, as I'm going to call her. Whenever she does ice, if you back out of it, you can then go in after the detonation and do a quick backstab. A couple of things to note about this woman. At distance, she will either come really close or she'll go invisible. When she goes invisible, she either jumps to the side or she jumps behind you. That is a grab. It is unblockable. Never challenge the grab. She's going invisible. Oh no, here comes the really fast 3-hit combo. Hate that move. Only thing that I think is bad about this boss is that she gets to take those instant teleport steps at the beginning of that sweeping combo. Everything else I like. There, see what I mean? I saw exactly where she was going. If you have trouble locating her when she jumps and she goes invisible, throw a couple of throwing knives to stick in her and you can see the knives. It's a really good technique of learning where she goes. And then when she's invisible, you have enough time to do anything you want to do to her. So charge your biggest weapons R2 and pancake her. And then as she gets up, do it again. Pancake her again. I've kept this woman on the floor perpetually with the Lothric Knight Greatsword just by doing that two-handed thrust. It's ridiculously good. And here we have the second phase of this boss fight. This is a 3-phase boss fight. It's the first of the series. It is Father Ariandel backed up by Sister Friede, or Friede. So my strategy here is going to be exploiting what Father Ariandel does. That move there, he does 3 swings with the pot, and then you can get a cheeky hit in and get out of there, but we kind of got together then, and they were moving in tandem, and that's really dangerous. You want nothing to do with that. Okay, so here is the breath. This you want to punish because you get the most amount of hits, but be careful, the momentum of your weapon can put... Look at the frame rate, by the way. The momentum of your weapon can put you into the hit, and I've done that plenty of times, so be very careful there. And what will occur during this fight, right now she's starting to heal the boss because we're hurting him, so run up to her and get a free backstab. If you're away from Father, this is bad. Look at this. This is a trap. There's almost no way of not taking damage in that, and if it happens when you're on a level 1 build, you're dead. It's the only setup they can do which feels like super bullshit, because you're in an animation, you can't recover from it, so you're taking mandatory damage and the fire lasts way too long. There's the 3 hits of the pot. Always go towards the hand that does not have the pot. That is the best way of avoiding the hitbox of that pot. And then get some distance. Never be close to him when he bangs it, because he can do an AoE that is massive. This thing will instantly kill you a lot of the times if you have low vigor. Do not challenge it at all. Here is the 4-hitter. This has massive forward momentum, but you can always roll past it because the hitbox is really fair. And then hit him in the ankles a bit, laugh at the fact that he's bound to a chair and he's still crawling around, and then come back over here and slap his daughter, or whoever this imposter is. There's the breath, guys. Punish the father. Get the hell out of the way of it, and then punish his arm. This is a fight that when you first do it, it feels like bullshit because you don't know what's going on, there's too much happening, and it feels ridiculous. But once you understand what each of these bosses can do, you will understand just how well designed and balanced this fight actually is. It works really well. All you have to look at is Father Ariandel is essentially, he's a time limit. He's a time limit forcing pressure on you, and you have to navigate him, kite him like the zombies in COD, and then just pick your time to turn around and do damage, and then get out of there. It's a really interesting setup. It is 2 people laying environmental traps, and you're navigating them like an old school shmup and dealing damage. And I really like that second phase. This is the 3rd phase. This is arguably the hardest because it's the one you'll see the less, and it takes a while to get to it. This is a ground impact and then a projectile. You can run to avoid it and get a big hit on her. Whenever she does her normal combo, I recommend going backwards rather than trying to dodge through it. You can parry it if you're brave, but I don't recommend it. And here is her 3-phase ice attack, where you can do massive damage if you find her. So she's going to do 2 ground plumes of ice, and then a final charging black explosion, so you need to try and find her, but she's invisible. And then you can either backstab her, or hit her with a really big move. This is the combo. Be very careful. It goes on for days. It has incredible range. Look at it hitting me almost every time I try and do anything. Very dangerous, folks. So here is the stance. She can either do the double spin, which can be tricky to dodge up close, or she can do the jump move. Here is the normal combo. Get away from it or parry it, or hit her during the interim of each attack to stun her, which is a really good strategy. There's the ice. It can be backstabbed, but do not stand in the residue or you'll blow up. I apologise, I have to talk really fast here, guys. This is a pretty quick fight. That is a double, slow-moving ground projectile that can sometimes be invisible. Here's the instant kill. Do not get touched by that grab. Very dangerous, but there is the two-hitter, so hit her afterwards. Dodge back and then hit her. Here is the ground one. See how it's invisible? It's still actually there, but it has problems. Here is the sliding move that's really difficult to dodge. That is the hardest move she does to dodge, I think. There's the two-hitter backstab. Awesome. Put her down. Get her with an R2 as she gets up. Nice. And then what's she going to do? Here comes the jump. It's ice because she did all the particle effects. Get that backstab. Punish her. Put her down. Get another charge R2. Back up. What does she do? Here comes the jumping black explosion. So start rolling twice or do the run attack. And then she's gone invisible. So once again, she jumps away. She will do a plume of ice, a second plume of ice, and then she starts charging a projectile that can be quite tricky to dodge, that does massive damage, and I've lost her. I don't think I'm going to be able to find her this time. I'm kind of pissing in the wind. Yeah, I'm going to have to dodge this, but dodge early, do not dodge this late. It is deceptively fast. That's the instant kill. Punisher. There is a dead boss. And there you go, guys. That is the end of my walkthrough. How did you find the DLC? Was it to your liking? Did you like the bosses? What didn't you like? Feel free to share in the comments. And if you're interested in watching this in New Game Plus 5 or 6, feel free to check out my other walkthrough. But as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and you take care now. This should show you my stats if you're curious of what my build is. He's only 69. That's one for the ladies. You take care now.